So, Attorney General serving Massachusetts, Maura Healey, welcome to the bridge. Let me start right in. So, let's open it up with a macro question. Now, looking back, if you describe your work in one word since 2015, which word would you like to use and why?
People focused. It's a bit about people. I mean, I meant it when I said that my job is to be the people's lawyer, and that's why we've been an office that's been really focused on how do we help people, how do we protect people, how do we help people in housing, in healthcare, how do we make sure that we support our small businesses, how do we support our workers. It's been about helping people.
Helping people. Yeah, so because we know that since you've become the AG from 2015, it has been like 7 years. It's a long time, right?
It's a really long time, and we worked on everything from going after predatory lenders, going after companies that took advantage of people, going after employers that didn't pay their workers enough. We went after student lenders who weren't fair to our student borrowers. We dealt with a lot of issues, protecting the environment, going after pollution, fighting for access to health care, fighting for gun safety and an end to violence, supporting our young people in community, and really supporting our immigrant communities, because during the Trump years, there were so many attacks on our immigrant communities. And one of the first things I did as Attorney General was set up a New Americans Council so that I could regularly meet and work with members of our immigrant communities, our refugee and asylee communities. And we also put an equity lens on everything that we do in the office. And it's made for a really busy 7 years. I think that we increased our staff too to make sure that people had more language capabilities so that we were better able to serve people out there.
Thank you for all your effort to the community.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been my privilege.
And during your college student years, you was the captain of the women's basketball team in Harvard. And you're using your photo with youth players in the basketball team as your Twitter cover. So that's interesting. Why did you choose basketball?
Because basketball is a team game. I think a lot of people like basketball. They watch basketball. They may have played basketball. And I think that they can relate. And so I wanted to put that out there because it's a big part of who I am. I'm a basketball player. I'm a point guard. I'm somebody who likes team and is about teamwork and about collaboration. And that's the kind of governor I want to be. Somebody who is about collaboration, who is about teamwork. I'm also a point guard, which means you're responsible for passing the ball and making the players play together, and your favorite statistic is not the points scored, but how many assists you have. And so basketball just represents a lot to me, and I wanted to show that in the campaign. Plus it's fun because a lot of people come up to me and say, I play basketball, or they'll challenge you to games, or a lot of times I'll just be somewhere and I'll stop and I'll play basketball or shoot baskets with kids on a playground. It's just a great way to connect with people.
With kids.
Yeah.
Do you still keep in connection with your players before?
Oh, definitely. People I played with in junior high, in high school, and in college, and then professionally. I keep in touch with my teammates, and it's been great over the years to be able to see each other. And I still play a little too. I'm older and I don't play as well as I did at all, but I still play basketball.
Yeah, that's a healthy lifestyle.
It's good.
Yeah. And talking about student days in 2020, when I was international student in Boston University, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, which is known as ICE, and forced international college students to leave the country if their university took an all-online class module and during the pandemic. So you was the first one at that time to say stop it to this policy. So what made you to choose to support students instead of the government decision?
Because we should be welcoming our students from other countries here. Particularly in Boston, we are so lucky to have so many colleges and universities and so many students who come from all over the world to study here. We'd love for them to stay here, for them to grow businesses here, to work here, to grow their families, to live here. And so we should be celebrating our immigrant students and our students, our foreign students. During the Trump years, I had to fight a lot to protect our foreign students and professors and those who were coming from other places to study in Boston. We fought the travel ban. We stood up to protect students like yourself during that time. We fought to defend Dreamers and the DACA program. I mean, these things are really important, and I think our students who come to Boston and Greater Boston from other countries really contribute so much to our culture here. They contribute to our economy. They contribute to our understanding of the world, and we're so lucky that students want to come study in Boston from all over the world.
Did you hear any voice saying that you should not do that?
Definitely. Unfortunately, there still is some xenophobia out there and bias and discrimination. And so, sure, I heard all of that, but it was the right thing to do. And so I wasn't going to listen to any of that.
That's cool. Yeah, and in many of your previous talks, you mentioned rights, and you also served as the chief of the Civil Rights Division in your early career. So after years of fighting for rights, what is your most impressive experience about rights?
Boy, I've worked on a lot of cases, fighting against discrimination based on race or ethnicity or disability or gender or sexual orientation. And for me, I think about some of the people who were harmed. I think about the family in Lynn, and their landlord had them living in really terrible conditions, and at one point threatened to report them to ICE if they complained about the conditions. And we went after that landlord, and we held him accountable, and we protected that family and kept them in a home and safe. But it's those kinds of cases that give me a lot of meaning, when we're able to stand up and protect and defend somebody who's really vulnerable, who may be feeling marginalized, and to make sure that they know that their voice matters, and we're going to be here to protect your rights.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned vulnerable people. So the rights is mostly about those kind of community, right?
Yeah, I think that so many people are vulnerable right now. You have people who don't have a lot of money, low-income people who are vulnerable. You have, I think, people in the Asian community are very vulnerable. You look at the increase in attacks on members of the Asian community, and we need to be really strong here in Massachusetts to say, hey, we're not going to accept that. We are not going to tolerate that. And when we see attacks on our Asian brothers and sisters, we're going to shut that down, and we're going to hold you accountable. Just like we need to stand up to the white supremacists who've come to march in Boston and in Massachusetts. We've got to be really strong for our people.
Yes. Media always give hashtags to famous people, and if you win the race for next governor, so you will be the state's first elected woman governor, and also the nation's first out lesbian governor. So what do you think of the two identities, women and LGBT, to you?
Well, to me, I just believe that representation matters. And for far too long, we haven't had people in government who look like us, who look like all of community. And so women are not well represented. People of color are not represented. People in the LGBTQ community are not represented. And so to me, it's really important to have diversity in our government, because that's the way we make sure that we have the best laws and policies. Because if we don't have people at the table who represent you and me and others' experience, those experiences are not going to be taken account for, right? They're not going to be included. And that's why it really matters. Representation matters. And seeing is believing. And I'm proud and have had the experience as Attorney General where people will come up to me and say, hey, you got elected as Attorney General, and that means I can be too someday. And that if that helps somebody and gives them hope that there shouldn't be any barriers to what they want to do with life, then that makes me really happy.
Yeah. So you mean like the hashtags is not only for you, it's not only for your identity, it's also the representation for all the people in that kind of the hashtag.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like the rainbow
No,
flags
it's
here.
part of what we do here, right? I think it should be, and I want it to be celebrated by a community, and I want particularly communities that have been the victims of discrimination or bias or unfair treatment for a long time.
Great. And also in April, you attended a candidate forum on energy and environment with Sonia Chandias. Will ESG be the main content for your reform afterwards?
It's certainly an important part of it. I mean, I have said I want to be the most aggressive governor in the country when it comes to addressing climate. I'm going to establish a chief of climate here in Massachusetts who will oversee the work that's being done across all our government agencies to make sure we're really pushing forward with a strong climate agenda. I have set really bold goals for our move to renewables, away from fossil fuels, really strong targets for wind, solar, storage, also for electrification. We need to electrify our public transit in particular. These are some of the things that I'm working on. Also, I think we have an opportunity to grow so many green jobs in this state with clean energy and clean tech. And there's so much innovation happening here in this area, and we should be taking advantage of it. So I'm going to be really aggressive, including in taking steps to address environmental injustice in communities. There are too many communities that have been the site of too much pollution, or where certain facilities were placed for far too long. And so we've got an opportunity now with my plan and with me as governor to address some of that. It's really, really important to me. And also, when I think about ESG, the role of companies, making sure that they are doing everything they can to embrace the need to address climate change and help our environment is critically important.
Yeah, you mean the big corporations who don't have that kind of clean energy?
Yeah, I mean, I sued ExxonMobil to hold them accountable for lying to us about what
That's a great
their
strategy,
product was, and we're winning. We are still in court with them, and we are winning and holding them accountable. And you know, it is really important that our corporations take steps to address climate change and to make the changes that they need. It's why you've seen some of the companies, you know, shift, because the investors are actually demanding that. And ESG is a good example of what's happening out there.
Yes. So now Sonia dropped out of the race and Mayor Michelle Wu endorsed you without hesitation. So what do you think of these two gifts recently?
Well, I am so honored to have Mayor Wu's endorsement. Michelle Wu and I have worked together for a long time. She's been on the city council. I've been attorney general.
Oh, that's a really long time.
And even back before, I was head of the Civil Rights Division, and I knew who Michelle Wu was. And so I'm really proud to be able to work alongside her. I want to work alongside her as a partner, as governor, and I was thrilled to get her endorsement. She is working so hard for the people of Boston on so many fronts: housing, transportation, resiliency, our environment. And she's a great leader and a great friend, and I'm proud to have her support.
Now you are the only one for the Democratic Party.
Well, you know, we've got a race to win, and the Republicans are going to put up a strong challenge against me. It's a very different vision for the future. They are anti-immigrant. They do not support the kinds of investments that we need to make in housing and transportation. They will take us backwards on the environment and climate and take us back to gas and fossil fuels. They are anti-abortion and do not believe in a woman's right to access reproductive health care. And so there are real differences in this race. And I will be pro-immigrant, and I will be pro-civil rights, and I will be pro-health care, and I will be pro-environment. And the people I'm running against, whoever comes out of the Republican primary, they're going to be the opposite.
Yes. And also there are many Chinese American followers of our channel, and they are very interested in knowing what specific improvement you can bring to the lives of Chinese community.
Well, I think one is protection. A strong champion for civil rights and for protecting our Chinese community and our Asian community, which has been tormented and the victim of really discriminatory acts here and around the country. That's the first thing, that they will have somebody who sees them, who hears them, and who will be a champion for them. A champion for their families, a champion for their businesses. And we have so many Chinese-owned businesses, small businesses that need support. And I will be a governor who supports those small businesses. I will also be a governor who supports our Chinese community by embracing and working with our Chinese community in business, in development, in growing our economy and in opportunity, and in education.
Many people are very interested in like the future education policy for those kind of communities.
It's really important. I think that we need to diversify our educators. We need to change our testing and licensing programs so that we have more educators who speak multiple languages and who are able to really connect with and reflect their student populations.
Yeah.
We need to also make sure that we're supporting our schools, fully funding our schools, making sure that our school buildings are great, making sure that our educators have the resources, and making sure, most importantly, that our young people are getting access to everything they need to have a successful education, a successful career, a successful life. Massachusetts is the greatest state in the country. And greatest state for education. We were the home to the first public school and public library, and so we need to make sure that we are doing all that we can to support public education. Also, public higher education, our community colleges and our state colleges and universities, and I'm a strong supporter of those, and we need funding. And also, I believe Massachusetts, we got to be competitive. We need to compete, and we are competitive, and we can't lose that. And we've got to be even more competitive, because right now there are a lot of people who are struggling in this state, who can't afford rent, who can't afford to buy a house, and who are dealing with the high price of gas and groceries and just everything. And so as governor, I want to help them. I want to provide relief to people and support to people. And that's one thing I can do as governor, recognize that people are really struggling with affordability. And you know, we need to find a way to work that through. And I think housing is really at the top of the list.
AG and governor are different positions and correspond to different responsibilities. So I'm curious, how do you define this shift in status? So, or how you see the difference between these two kind of jobs?
And they are different jobs.
Yeah.
They are different jobs. One, you are running really the justice system and advocating against powerful interests, making sure that you're standing up for people's rights and protecting them as attorney general, as the people's lawyer. And as governor, you're really responsible for running the Commonwealth, for running the state, for governing, making sure that your agencies are running well and serving people. And while they're different jobs, the formula for me is the same. It's about people. Make sure that we have in place talented people who care, who have passion and compassion, who believe in the public interest and believe in the mission to help people. We also need to have people who will be good collaborators and work with people inside and outside of government, within community, to do what we need to do to address the challenges we face around housing and transportation and education and climate and healthcare and the like. And so they are different jobs, but I'm also somebody who has been a CEO, who's been a leader. I've led this Attorney General's office, which has hundreds of employees. I have managed a budget of over $60 million. And my job has been to make sure as leader that we are getting the very best out of that office. And as governor, you need to do the same thing. You need to have the talented people, and you need to make sure that things are running well and that people in the state are being served.
You may not have the chance to fight directly with companies like mobile, like that, because as a governor, you don't have like a burden like an AG.
That's
you
right.
just have an AG to do that thing.
Yeah, and you have different opportunities. You have opportunities to work with businesses, to work with companies on solutions, and there's so much that you can do. You also have an opportunity to appoint people to commissions and boards, and I have said before that diversity on commissions and boards and in government positions is really important, and as governor, I'm going to make sure that happens.
Are you going to be gentle when you be the governor?
Gentle?
Yeah.
I'm going to try to be effective, and sometimes that's going to be being gentle, and sometimes it's going to mean being tough. But I am going to be somebody who really tries to hear everyone and see everyone and listen to everyone.
Okay, so I hope I can see a governor with gentle and also aggressive.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You need to be able to do both.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also my question, I'll hold on, and as a tradition for our program, we can speak to the camera and send a video message to the people who watch this program, and anything you want to say, just a direct message to them. And you can just
Great. Well, my name is Maura Healey, and I am running to be your governor. I believe that Massachusetts is the greatest state in the country. We have the greatest human capital, intellectual capital, research, academia, business. We have a history of going first. I know also that a lot of people in Massachusetts are hurting right now. What we need to do is address the high cost of living. We need to invest in housing, in a safe and reliable transportation system. We need to invest in job growth and in education. We need to support our immigrant communities. We need to support those who are vulnerable, especially in this time. And I will be a governor who sees you, who listens to you, who hears you, and will work hard every day to make life better for you. I ask for your support. The election is coming. I hope you get out and vote on January 6th and then later in November.